The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. Propaganda's the show where we find out what's been said about Leeds United. Welcome along, Dan, with Michael Normanton and Moscow White, Daniel Chapman as well. Usual trio in the chairs. Look out for Propaganda Extra TSB Plus members, by the way, on your podcast feeds and on the website as well. Bonus bits of propaganda, all the stuff that we can't fit into. We've got two shows. We've got the Leeds half of the Propaganda, where we find out what you thought about Leeds' sensational performance against Chelsea, and then also the Chelsea half, which I think is the one that everyone's really, really looking forward to this week. Show's brought to you by Levi Solicitors, by the way. 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Right, so let's explain to the viewer, to the listener, exactly where we are with this show. The Leeds half of the reaction. How does this come about?
People send in loads of stuff, as it turns out, this week. Absolutely.
Tape. Have you got all the tape? Lots of tapes?
The tapes, I've barely got room for them all. I've got one of those little stands, you know, slot them all into. I've got a CD one too, but I've only got like 3 CDs.
Oh, yeah, posh.
No, I'm just building my collection.
So how do we get people to send the tapes in? It's our TSB Plus members who listen to the match ball and then are invited to send in their comments. There's a button you press on the website, which is on the live video match for the match ball, isn't it? It's there. Explain it better than I can, Moscow.
Go to the menu, look at Talk to Us TSB.
Push the button.
I mean, our listeners are intelligent people.
More intelligent than I am. Should say to our listeners as well, hi to David and Lee, who we bumped into from Athlone in Ireland on Sunday night in Leeds, who came and said hi. You big fan of Athlone, Michael? Yep.
Very much so, yeah.
Favourite lock in the area?
That is, yes.
Have you got one?
Yale locks.
No, it's on the sheet.
Ah,
You're ruining your own bloody joke.
No, it's not my joke. You're trying to write jokes for me.
Someone needs to.
Do you mean Loughry?
I think it's Lock, but yeah.
That's how you spell lock.
Is it your favourite of all the lakes on the Shannon?
Yes, I'd
good.
say
Well,
so.
I'm glad you executed that joke well. As part of the feedback as well, we get our TSB Plus members to score the players and the manager for the performance at the weekend. Moscow, talk us through the numbers.
Everybody did better than the Southampton game across the board. Marsh is probably the big headline because the poor fella got a 4 out of 10 against Southampton because he didn't make any subs. And against Chelsea, he made 5 subs.
That's all of them.
All of them, every sub he could possibly make, whether we needed them or not. And so it is no coincidence that he got up to a 9.52 out of 10.
Well done, Jesse Marsh.
That's
high.
That's great. He was only bettered, in fact, by the TSB Plus player of the match, who I was quite surprised he managed to nick this, but then I noticed Sky had given it to him as well. But Jackie Harrison got 9.58, just ahead of, I thought, because he's exciting new and he's got curly hair and he's nice, Brendan would have nicked it, but he got 9.51, 0.01 less than Jesse Marsh.
That's very close.
And Adams 9.47, so nothing really to split any of them at the top end of that.
And both Rodrigo and Melier got over 9s as well.
They did.
Plenty hovering around 8 as well. Cock and Llorente both scored highly. Strauch as well. Rocker.
Sinistera, pathetic. Sell him.
Well, yeah, Sinistera got lowest overall, but substitute, you have to make allowances. Lowest starter, poor old Rasmus, 7.42.
And even then, that's dead good. If somebody scored me a 7.42 out of 10 every week, I'll be happy with that.
Definitely. And I assume the subs received high scores for just coming on and hysterically fouling people relentlessly.
That's it. Click has managed to get 7.85, and a lot of that will just be because he managed to upset Thomas Tuchel. So he would work all around.
He was excellent, by the way. Did you watch any of it back? Because I've watched the full game back. I've watched the highlights 1,000 times. I've watched the 3-minute Premier League Sky Sports clip about 15 to 20,000 times now. All good fun. Spot new things every time. Little things like I started watching the crowd, when Aronson taps it in. If you watch the crowd, if you look, people start jumping up and down just for half a second because they know what's going to happen. It hasn't quite happened yet. So just between him nicking the ball off Mendy's toe and putting it in the net, people start pogoing in the south stand just before it erupts. It's brilliant.
Mendy was doing that as well, in fairness.
Yes.
For different reasons, I think.
He was, yes. Should we get to the submissions that have been sent then? Have we got the C90, the tape player, all fired up and ready to go?
Bless me, Luke's done well because he's only 18 and he sent in a submission. You can probably tell that his was sent in on the Sunday evening. Yep. And I think he'd had a nice day.
Wow, what a fucking day. 18 years old. Elland Road for basically fucking same. Who knows at this point? I fucking love it. I think that's the best one of the lot. I love it all. I fucking love it. I love Marsh, the fucking dick. I love that little scum bastard. I love Rodrigo, the fucking world's greatest striker in place. I love that little Yank Badger. Fucking hell. Running the place. Tyler Adams, fucking flag on him. Oh, what a man. Fucking, I've always loved America. Who won? Tell me one. Fucking hell. What a fucking day.
That is outstanding. Oh, to be 18 again and having a day like that.
Brilliantly pissed.
I mean, I had a great day, and I'm in my 40s, but Luke sounds like he's had the day that I wish I had.
The little Yank Badger, are we assuming that's Aronson?
It must be, yeah.
He mentioned Marsh and Adams by name, didn't he?
What, Badger?
I don't know.
No, it suits him.
Yeah.
He's right. Although I suppose...
We'll add it to the list. We've got Big Pirate, Yank Badger.
Little scum bastard.
I'm guessing Marsh might not want to adopt the fucking dick.
It was done affectionately.
It was done affectionately, and that is the way you say it to your mate at the end of an evening as well.
Yeah.
So it was very nice, was that?
I mean, an American badger is a little different to a European badger. I think the less common, maybe a raccoon is more appropriate, but we'll go with badger.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Moscow. On to the next one then. Who's this?
This is Reverse Cowgirl. A very short message, but again, sent in on Sunday night.
Hi, Reverse Cowgirl here. Can't really send a message because my throat is fucked.
Just capturing what it was.
That's exactly how it felt, wasn't it? That's exactly how it felt.
I mean, I don't know how old Reverse Cowgirl is or was.
She sounds like she's been on the Woodbines quite a lot.
Yes, I'm sure that isn't Jane, the cowgirl from before. Luke's 18. Reverse Cow, I'm guessing fairly young. And West Stand Ralph, I know, is in his early 20s as well. But I think it just captures nicely that like young people enjoying Leeds United and seeing us beat someone good.
Yeah, I mean, you forget, don't you, that you've got old and Leeds haven't been like Premier League good for a long time. I think that was part of the joy and the watershed feeling about what happened on Sunday, was the sense that it's actually been a bloody long time since we were operating at the level that we operated at on Sunday. It was brilliant. Should we hear from Ralph then?
What a day of football. Just got back into my hotel room after a very quiet train down to London. A very funny train down to London. Can we make this the norm? Like, fun day out with the football. It's weird. Michael alluded to the fact that I don't think we've ever beaten Chelsea. Definitely not in my lifetime. And what the fuck was that thrusting by Marsh? It was like 10 minutes to go and he's giving it like full penis vibes to the team.
I mean, it was a thrusty day.
I did see West End Ralph at the end of the match. He did look a little distraught by what had been going on.
Someone did suggest we should make more of Jesse's jeans, these tight jeans. It might have even been my mum. Apologies if it's not, but someone said we should talk more about his jeans.
Your mum, does she like them?
Maybe she does.
He's in good nick, isn't he, in fairness, for a middle-aged man?
There was a moment, I think probably in the first half, I was looking at the pair of them, him and Tuchel, both really poured their legs into some very tight strides. And it was sort of impressive, but then, yeah, only for a moment, really.
I want to see you in skinny jeans, Moscow.
You don't.
No, I do.
You're a similar physique to Tuchel, I would say.
In some places.
You're a long man.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. A long, thin man.
Yeah. Excellent. Onto the atmosphere then. Simon sent his tape in. Are you going to press play on the tape machine there, Michael?
The players were absolutely phenomenal yesterday, and I don't think I can say any more than it was already been said about that. The atmosphere at the stadium was absolutely brilliant. Nothing since Champions League days that have we had an atmosphere like that. Absolutely brilliant, how that crispness of that marching on together towards the end of the game. And when was the last time we had an let's go fucking mental like that? Absolutely brilliant. Let's hope this is the start of something big. And 3-0 against Chelsea. Fucking brilliant. Let's have it.
I love all the croaky voices. It's like we can all totally, I think, relate to that. It was brilliant, wasn't it? It's just as a shared experience. So that's what it was to me. I went away and reflected on it. And it's just that sense of oneness. When Elland Road is as one, and it's not bitchy and catty, it's just magic, isn't it? Days like that are just magic. And I'm going to remember it for years to come.
I think watching it back as well, and all the clips of the people doing the mental and everything, like people in the West Stand doing it, people in the East Stand doing it. There was, it's not actually included in the clips, but there was some YouTuber was up in the East Upper with his dad. He was a Chelsea fan. His dad was a Leeds fan, and it was even like bouncing up there. And the East Upper is it's a fully corporate area.
And it was built very cheaply.
Yeah, it's not meant for that. That's the level of stress.
Don't pogo on it.
That's where Peter Ridsdale got the criticism when that the letters went out about people standing in seating areas. He said we can understand it in moments of high excitement was always the thing that was held against him. We were like, well, there aren't any. It's bloody Leeds. There's never any high excitement. It was like people in the East Upper are at great risk of toppling off if people are jumping up and celebrating during games. So everybody needs to sit down. People are like, nobody in the East Upper is standing up anyway. So it seemed like a waste of time from Peter's perspective. But now, there you go. And the Champions League mention is interesting because the performance on Sunday felt quite O'Leary-ish in that it was energy and
barnstorming.
And it's kind of a way of, when we've looked back at some of those games when we've done the extra balls and stuff, you watch some of the football and you think, oh well, like, was it as good as we remember? But it generated atmosphere and momentum in the stadium and victories. Like we would beat Chelsea just not by having
it's force of will.
Yeah, we didn't have, when we beat Chelsea in the O'Leary era, we probably didn't have a player as good as Marcel Desailly, although Lucas Radebe, if he'd been fit, obviously would have knocked him into an old hat. But it's that there was always like kind of a disparity in terms of like quality of players. We were trying to get to the level of those Champions League teams, but we would just beat them anyway. And there was a real kind of feeling of that in the performance on Sunday, that was kind of, they've got all their hundreds of millions of players, but we're Leeds and we'll just beat them.
I think it was thinking back on it, I think it might be the last time we've beaten an actual properly good side at Elland Road with a crowd in since like beating Scum in the Venables era. Because I don't think we call us ever beating Arsenal or Liverpool or Chelsea or Scum again after that before relegation. And there's obviously been massively important games at Elland Road we're going to have mention of the Huddersfield one in a bit, but the Bristol game to get us up, and there have been some really big occasions there. But we've never actually been beating a good side, whereas Chelsea, the Champions League winners a couple of years ago, and they will be in the top 4 this season, and we dicked them. We didn't just scrape a victory either. The way we did it, it felt almost relaxed in a way that, I'm as stressy as anyone when we're in the lead thinking, oh, this is going to go wrong. But we were never really under the cosh, were we? It's not like Meslier was making loads of saves. They were offside every time they created an opportunity. So it was kind of all right.
Yeah, and the speed...
And very funny.
The speed at which we got the 2 goals as well. I think it was kind of open for a bit at the start, wasn't it? And you thought we could be in for a long day here when Sterling first broke through, early doors, and he probably should have scored. So credit to Meslier for the work that he did, and the defenders as well. But then as soon as we got in front, and then to sort of build on it and go 2 in front immediately afterwards, proper hammer blow stuff, that, isn't it? And 2-0, obviously, just by definition, is more comfortable than 1-0.
Yeah, and then the third and the sending off, it was just a full party by then, and Clicks on just knocking Thiago Silva about just for a laugh.
Joffy did as well. Yeah.
And the Tuchel going mental on the sideline because they can't get it out of defence because we just keep kicking him. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was a perfect day, wasn't it? As I think we said on the match ball, like even down to the fact that the sun was shining. It was just a really, really nice, fun day. Adsham sent his tape in.
Moscow got it exactly spot on. The most happy it's been in Elland Road since Luke Ayling twat badger that one in against the dog botherers pre-COVID. Absolutely joyous.
Twat badgered. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not yank badgered.
No.
Twat badgered.
Bit of a theme running through all these.
Yeah, it's COVID robbed us of a lot, didn't it? But we got a little bit back on Sunday, I think, and thinking back to times that have been good, probably the best previous moment I can remember against Chelsea is Becchio's goal, because that was a great moment. Full house, and I was top of the East Stand for that. I was on the absolute back row.
The Millwall game?
No, Chelsea.
Sorry, Chelsea. All right,
they did go on to spankers quite badly.
5-1, exactly. So it's kind of, that's the difference. We've gone from clinging to, I still love that goal and still vividly remember how great that was, and Becchio's celebration was wonderful, but it's a real brief moment. But going from that in, whenever that was, like 2012 to 2022, when we are getting a 90-minute 3-0 win.
That's 10 years, Moscow.
Let's not dwell on that.
Bloody hell.
Becchio should still be playing for us as well, shouldn't he?
If only.
If there was any justice in the world.
He's hawking off apartments in Mallorca for rent these days on his Twitter. I noticed the other day. Luciano. Yeah.
Ooh, would you go and stay in
It looked really
Becky
nice.
holiday rental?
He said something like it's private information. I don't know if he'd meant it. It's like a very strange tweet.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think he meant you should DM him for more info, but he was like,
it sounded like it sounded like it was a secret, didn't it?
Yeah, I have this apartment for sale,
But don't tell anyone.
I have this apartment for rent. Private information.
On the theme of
Like Tuchel's cabin in the woods.
On the theme of a lovely day out, Bobby Eyebrows sent this tape in.
What an absolute dream of a day today has been. Honestly, from the kick-off to everything, first few minutes, a little bit fucking flaky, and then we just fucking dominated. Jesse got it right. The players delivered how we wanted them to deliver. We are fucking going to win this league. Come on, march on together.
That one's got too carried away after. It's great.
That's good because in name and speech, Bobby Eyebrows started there like the best stand-in presenter of Rainbow you could imagine. But by the end, when it's just swearing and talking about dominating, it's like,
Rainbow, another Gen Z reference for the kids.
Bungle will be trying to take the glass of whiskey out of his hand. Calm down, Bobby.
Yeah, it was excellent. It kind of just gradually, but in a fun way, deteriorated, that one, didn't it? So thank you for that, Bobby Eyebrows. On to some Jackie praise, because he was brilliant, and he's quietly been brilliant this season as Jackie, hasn't he?
I wouldn't say it's been that quiet. Scoring goals, assists every game?
Not quietly. It feels like maybe we don't appreciate just how good he is. And yet it's like Jackie's just out there doing Jackie things, being Jackie, and then you look at the stats afterwards and go, bloody hell, he's contributed to everything.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
I think it's... He's definitely stepped up this season, though, because there were bits of... there's always been bits of Jackie where you watch him for a spell of games and you're like... I'm not quite sure. He's not consistent enough, and he'll have little moments where he'll bring a ball down and he'll do something brilliant, but then there are other times when he's just not involved, and so far he's not had an off day this season.
I mean, maybe the slightly... I mean, I don't know if I'm doing him a disservice by saying this, but the slightly simplified game plan helps him a little bit, because if in doubt, you hit the penalty spot. So he knows that when he gets it on the left, as long as he puts the ball in early, if he's under instructions to play it early, and it strikes me like from looking at how the wide forwards tended to play, and Dan James did this a couple of times, you get the ball, and once you've got in a good position, you go early and hit the penalty spot.
Well, yeah, that's it. The third goal came from Harrison passing to Rodrigo, and then Rodrigo absolutely punting the ball about like way too far in front of Dan James, but then realising, he's really fucking fast. So him and Rodrigo and Harrison then sprint into the penalty area.
And where did Dan James put it as well? If you looked where he chipped it towards?
The penalty spot.
Yeah.
Where we had Harrison. So Aronson went for it first. Rodrigo couldn't get a good connection. Harrison's there to put it in. And it's the difference, it's the width thing. So previously we would have a cross from the left touchline, and if it didn't hit anybody in the middle, we would have a winger on the right touchline, would get the ball and we'd cross it again. And that was one of the ways that we penned teams back, because we would keep picking the ball either side and pinging it in. And the idea was, with them being so wide, you are taking defenders out of the middle and leaving room for Pat Bamford has got all the time and space, so you pick him out and he scores. Ideally, the different approach here is James is crossing from the edge of the penalty area, and we've got all our forward players are heading for the 6-yard box, taking all the defenders in there with them, so there isn't the space and there's not like the opportunity to get like, you're not picking out a clean header with room and time to pick a spot. You're aiming for what happened with that goal, which is Aronson is close to it, Rodrigo scuffs it, Harrison is there to put it in, so you've got 3 opportunities, and if they don't do it, one of the defenders, it could ping in off them. So it's a different way of creating a different kind of chance. But that's the sense of us bringing the wingers all the way in, and it does suit Jackie, I think, because Harrison's always suffered a bit from expectations of his final ball being kind of beyond what even good Premier League wingers can deliver. I think I did a analysis at one point to see how he was comparing to other Premier League wingers, and his like his cross success rate was not markedly worse than anybody else. It was about 1 in 2, and it's fine. But part of his style is he takes a few more. He's a bit more willing to just go like, I can't get out of this situation. I'm just going to stick it in the box. And he's always had that, like, I can't do anything really precisely, so I'll just stick it in and see if anything happens. And that works a bit better for him now because there will be 3 people in there instead of it would be Pat Bamford saying, well, don't expect me to move 3 feet, Jacqueline. That ball is way too far away from me. So it all works pretty well together. But he was great on Sunday. I don't know why I think the game was on Saturday.
It felt like a Saturday.
My favourite bit was him beating 2 players on the touchline by falling over and then getting the ball up as he recovered his stumble. That was
Pete enjoyed that as well, and he even went to the trouble of recording it on a tape and posting it to Michael so he could play it on the show.
Pete knows his stuff.
I just wanted to say, how about that moment where Harrison was heading towards the line, 3 Chelsea players chasing him? It looked like he almost deliberately fell over, almost through their legs. They were gone, stood up, off he goes. Harrison is amazing this season, and the team were fantastic yesterday.
Sounds like is that Australia?
I think it's because it's on the. I think it must have been some magnets on the train on the plane over or something.
It's ruined the tape a little bit.
Ruined the tape a little bit.
Again, credit to the postal services for getting it to us on time.
So, and I think moments like that on the weekend really added to it as well. Like the bit early on when Aronson turned Koulibaly, little bits like that really get the crowd going as well, where everyone goes way, and it just builds that atmosphere. I think, and Jackie doing that was another one where you think, oh, he's lost it, and then he somehow staggers on and it ends up with the ball in their half.
Yeah, it helped from 2 angles. One, because you couldn't imagine the Chelsea players just didn't see him up for trying to like battle their way through something like that. And then Koulibaly on Aronson was great because seeing a player that you know is a pest on your team getting clotheslined for no reason just gets the crowd up. So they really, Chelsea just let themselves be played to quite a large extent.
Is that because they're a bunch of chumps, Moscow?
Well, Thomas Tuchel will tell you that it was nothing to do with Leeds United, so it must have just been down to them being a bunch of chumps.
Yes. Right, Henry sent a tape in as well.
Jack Harrison. He, at the start of the season, when there were the rumours with Newcastle, and a lot of people, including me, were like, yeah, take 30 and run. But I tell you what, you look at that player and the way he's been performing this season, his goals, his assists, his creativity, his touch, you think, are we going to buy a player for less than 30 million for that? Probably not. Gareth Southgate has some thinking to do.
I very much enjoyed the addition of the parrot or the budgie there.
The budgie in the background, yeah.
You are a bird expert.
Am I?
I believe so.
Okay, yes.
As well as your coaching prowess. What a bird expert's called?
I
know you're just testing me.
Not an aviarist.
An aviation expert.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
A bird expert.
Aviation expert.
But I reckon that was a budgie.
Yes, correct.
That's why the caged bird sings, because Jackie Harrison should play for England. It's exactly what Mayor Angeli was getting at.
Phil said on one of the shows, I think this week, like 22 million they've bid. Their second bid is 22, and first one was something like 17. Newcastle, go away.
Yeah, I would. I mean, he's a vital part of the team now, isn't he?
Yeah.
You'd probably, if you're listing, getting your names on the team sheet first of all, he's certainly in the first 5, I would say, at the moment.
I saw there was some, fans just sort of idly tweet about how they expect to sign a footballer. It was a Newcastle fan, a Leeds fan retweeted it, suggesting, we'll just do it next year. It's like, no, you won't. No, we'll just they can just walk in and buy anybody they want because they think they've got bottomless pots of money.
I mean, that's the Chelsea model.
Yeah,
and it has worked.
Well
for them.
They may well come in next year, but they should be paying, if we get him on a new contract, which we bloody well should,
for a change.
Pay us 100 million.
Yeah, it's always a good indication because the way we kind of hyperanalyze our own players is often, doesn't bring out the best of them. So you're watching every single Jackie Harrison cross and whether it meets a player or not. But then you watch Match of the Day and Wilf Zaha, you only see the ones that work and you think, he's loads better. But then when a club like Newcastle that wants to be leapfrogging us into the Champions League places, even after finishing above us last season, wants him and thinks he can improve them, even if they are putting in joke bids, then it should give you a pause to think, actually, yeah.
He looks like an Eddie Howe type of player.
Something. It's a sort of similar thing with, I know Dan James hasn't ascended to the kind of the Jackie Harrison levels of achievement. He's only played like 1.5 games this season as well, but then when the Spurs seem constantly interested in him, and we're interested in Harrison last season as well, and it's kind of like, well, a lot of Leeds fans don't see it, and it's understandable. But then you've got to think, well, what does Spurs see in Dan James that makes them think he can help them get into the Champions League, even if it's as a squad player, and it should give us like pause of maybe they're better than we think they are.
Mick has sent in a message actually, which essentially is just highlighting what a set of idiots Leeds fans are, which is including us probably.
In a nice way, though.
In a very nice way.
In a
yes.
nice way.
I was listening back to a few of the old square balls there from the first Bielsa season.
Mistake.
And the idea that Jack Clark was a better prospect than Jack Harrison, not Jackie Harrison at the time. How wrong any of us can be about football. Sitting here, we're after going 3-0 up. Leeds fucking United.
I think that's how a lot of people felt about it on Sunday.
Although time plays its part as well, because Harrison in his first season was not the Harrison we're looking now. And I noticed as part of the kind of the outpouring of USA-ness after USA-ness.
That's not a phrase.
That's how I use
it. It is. That's a word in the dictionary.
There was one kind of sort of desperate sports media tweet that was, does Jesse Marsh, Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson and Jack Harrison's success in the Premier League show that MLS is a great league now? I was like, when...
He's from Stoke, isn't he?
Well, exactly. And when Harrison left MLS, he couldn't get into a Tony Pulis team at Middlesbrough. Admittedly, that's possibly because he had too much skill. But he didn't come to Leeds looking like a world beater. And it's to Harrison's credit, I think everybody recognises the amount of the mind-bending amount of work he puts in.
Sickening, actually.
Yeah, it's really hard to watch. But he has got himself to this position from that. But there's no way he... I think it was probably... don't listen back to old podcasts and listen to what's going like. I mean,
coming in here with your hindsight. Well done.
Remember the
idiots,
the Ryan Edmondson versus Pat Bamford debates from Bielsa's first season as well. Why won't he put Ryan Edmondson in the team?
The Tyler Roberts versus Pat Bamford debate.
Well, I mean, that was a realistic one, but all those things and the same. Jack Clark. I suppose that then says the lie to what I was saying about Dan James. You look at Dan James and say, well, why does Spurs want him? And then you remember Jack Clark and you just go like, let's just take the money.
Some players just do go on weird trajectories. I mean, look at like Dele Alli. Like Everton are trying to offload him already because Frank's so bloody arrogant that he thought he could fix him. I can fix him. No, you can't. You're an idiot. You have no emotional intelligence. Go away.
It's a very... I
said Frank like he was my friend then. He's not.
Your best buddy, Fra.
Yeah. My BFF. My best friend, Frank.
Frella.
Speaking of the USA-ness... USAization, is it? Is that the word we're after?
I mean, it's just an anus joke, really, but you can...
Us anus.
Perfect. Right, let's hear from Ben.
Take me on a trip. I'd like to go someday. Take me to New York. I'd love to see LA. I really want to come kick it with you.
It's Estelle.
Because you are our American boys. American boys. Fucking get it!
I was waiting for that then. I was wondering where it was going to go. That was the Kanye bit, wasn't it? At the end there. You said that like you've got no handle on pop music, have you?
No idea what you're talking about now.
Estelle and Kanye West did the song American Boy.
I know that song, yeah, but I thought you meant the fucking get in bit. That wasn't on the song, was it?
It's a B-side version.
Oh, okay.
It's the remix.
Anyway. The Americans. I like the way that America is now latching on to Leeds. I think it's a great deal of fun. Like, because I saw a tweet this morning, I think we retweeted it from the Square Ball account, that we've been bumped up to like the USA channel on Saturday for the Brighton game, and they're moving all the other piffling clubs, I think Man City, Liverpool, all the strugglers, all those ones, onto Peacock as well, which is like the streaming service. So we get the TV coverage because there's such interest growing in Jesse Marsh and the American boys.
We'll be reunited with Peter Drury on the comms. He's taken over all the... I think it's NBC. He's doing the main US commentaries now.
Who for many years was at Radio Leeds, wasn't he?
Yeah, when we won the title in 1992, he was the voice of that.
He was the proto Adam Pope.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have done 2 Leeds title wins 30 years apart. Imagine that.
Be good, won't it?
What an experience for him. Sorry.
I was going to say on the USA-ness, Isaac has sent this tape in.
Just wanted to point out from an American perspective that the third best American on the pitch today was wearing number 10 for Chelsea.
Yeah.
4th if you count Jackie Harrison.
Yeah. All facts.
from Stoke.
All facts.
Pulisic is interesting because he's sort of a star in this country, but he's not like a big deal, is he? Particularly in the Premier League. But he's huge in America. Even though he's
the poster boy?
Even though he's like 22, 23, people reckon he's the best player they've ever had, which is kind of a big deal. So if we've got,
it's going to be Brendan Aronson.
I was going to say, if we have,
he's more wholesome.
The actual,
he's younger.
Why is he more wholesome?
He's just got lovely. He's apple pie wholesome. Is Aronson, isn't he?
I was looking at his massive face on the northeast corner before the game.
Which they've got.
He doesn't have a massive face.
No, he's got quite a small.
Well, when it's on the side of a stand.
These are the banners that adorn the outside of the stand. Yeah,
so young looking.
Yeah.
Remember when? Just to think about other kind of young stars, like Ryan Edmondson when he was 16 and he came in the team, looked like a big old man.
Yeah. So was Charlie Creswell is a perfect example, doesn't he?
Yeah. Like Aronson, just every bit of him screams that he's like 15 years old.
But you see sorry, Moscow. I was just going to say, did you see the post-match interviews when I think he was chatting to Harrison, but then they did also the tunnel cam as well, and he's just walking around with a shirt. He's probably one of the smaller shirts. It just seems to be like hanging off him. It's like, when is it the film Big, Tom Hanks, where they do the body swap, child to man, man to child, and all that, and it's when you see the kid in the suit. And it's just like flapping off him like that, like your little kid's first day of secondary school kind of thing.
We have in the past likened his style a bit to Lee Bowyer, and that was his classic look, wasn't it? That he always looked like his shirt was massive on him. And I know that was more the style at the time, but Bowyer in particular, it looked like you could have fitted two of them in there.
Yeah,
that was all Puma's sizing though.
And Nike as well.
Yeah.
The 1997 shirts in particular though were like this. Even in small.
It's been very generous to anybody who's hitting middle age around now. We have said this before, like the size of the Nike shirts, the Champions League era shirts, because they still are wearable.
Whereas I think the current sizing, there's some faults with them.
Yeah, if you stack up like the more modern shirts, you can overlay them on the Nike shirts, can't you? And they look like about 2 or 3 times as big, which is good for the retro market. Anyway, moving on to a new era, aren't we now? And this is what Philip had to say.
All right, lads. Last time I sent in a recording, it was after Bielsa left, and it was just grief central. But if that performance today is any signal of what we're going to get for the rest of the season and for the rest of March, bring it on. That was unbelievable.
Marsh spoke of validation, didn't he, in the wake of this game? And you kind of see what he meant by that, in terms of proving to the players, to the fans, maybe even to himself a bit, that all this has the potential to work.
To go back to the Bielsa stuff, it did feel like a kind of a breakup or a bereavement or something at the time, and it feels like if that was the breakup, this is the kind of actually I can still have fun. Like I've got a new girlfriend, and this is actually really good,
and she's dead nice.
Maybe this is fine. Maybe life isn't over for me. It's like it did feel like a fresh start, because I know last season was pretty much grim the whole time, wasn't it? It was watching Bielsa fail, then it was watching Marsh succeed, but in a way that somehow until the very last minute felt like failure still, because it was it was such a grind just watching us play.
I was chatting to somebody via text last night about this, and we were talking about even like the Norwich win, which was so joyous, that last minute win. But that was even like, it was viewed through the prism of stress, wasn't it? It was relief from stress rather than actual just unbridled joy, which is what it felt like on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't last season. We can't need to go over it again too much, but we didn't play well in those games. We went from not being able to do one manager's plan to not being able to do another manager's plan. Now you can see how well it can work. You look back at last season and sort of see how difficult changing a manager in March, like the problems that creates for the incoming manager trying to do what he wants to do when he can't sign any players, he hasn't got enough time to work with them. So when we talk about that being a gamble and kind of getting away with it in the end, that was the boardroom aspect of them deciding, getting to March and deciding that's the moment to make the change. I think with Marsh, it was always, I can remember the first podcast we did after he was appointed was always, I never thought he was going to be a bad manager going forward. It was always kind of, his football will probably be fine and it will probably be exciting because of what it's done at Salzburg and New York, and should not. I thought it would be good enough to keep us up, and it actually turned out to be a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And into this season, mid-table, should not be difficult with starting again with him. It was just always, the way it ended was always just a massive problem. And now we're starting to see, it's making more sense now of kind of the how it follows from Bielsa and how it fits with the football Elland Road responds to.
Yeah.
Because all you could see last season towards the end of it were the differences from Bielsa's football. Now he's had more time, you can see the similarities. But it's just, if you asked me any point, any team, any club, should they change a manager in March, I would say still no, because it's such a huge gamble and it's such a risk. And there is risk with staying with somebody as well, but, it should have been done earlier than that if it was going to be done or not done. But that's never been on Jesse Marsch. What was on Jesse Marsch was that he didn't make it look better than he did last season, but there were so many reasons for that. The pressure,
which we can now see them, can't we?
We could see it at the time. I don't think anybody was. It raised severe doubts about what he would be capable of doing, but it was always with the knowledge of the situation he'd been put. He'd chosen to put himself into reluctantly.
I was going to say reluctantly.
Yeah. So he knew how difficult it was going to be. We knew how difficult it was going to be. That was why. That's always what it comes down to. It's like what a fucking risk it was, knowing how difficult it was going to be. And yeah, during those weeks there was nothing happening, but that made you think, well, this is going better than we thought it would, until the end when we stayed up. But it was always about the idea that, like, if we'd never seen him last season and that fantasy land, so if Bielsa had stayed and kept us up and Jesse Marsch came in the summer, you would be thinking, like, decent appointment, let's go for it. His football will probably be, I've always said, the excitement will be there. It will be a very different style and not to everybody's taste who enjoyed the way we played before. So, but it's doing now what you'd hoped it would do.
I think as well, on the pitch, it's been important to see Adams and Aronson doing so well as well, because they are essentially, I know they play slightly different positions, but they are the Rafinha and the Phillips replacements. And actually, if you look at Adams, he makes a lot more sense than Phillips did at the end of last season. Like, you wouldn't, if you could only see the Marsch era of Phillips and the Marsch era of Adams, you would say Adams was the better player by an absolute mile, because Phillips never quite worked for him. It was a different system. He was never fully fit within it. And Rafinha and Aronson as well, like, it felt like Rafinha was kind of a 1 in a million player, and we might not get anyone as good as that for ages. And long term, I don't know if Aronson will be as good, but he can still leave a 30 million quid defender on his arse and, mug a goalkeeper that Chelsea have spent. I don't know how much they've spent on him. Probably another 30 million. They just spend that much on everyone.
And what you do see with Aronson is how he functions within the system as well as a whole. Whereas Rafinha, you don't necessarily. He was just he was an enigma, wasn't
he? Long throws.
So
we miss his long throws.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's not.
But it's such a brilliant footballer. He did the work, but you see how Aronson fits, don't you? Like, it works.
Well, that's it. Rafinha, when he played for Brazil, we talked about last season, you could see he was immediately just on the touchline. He went even wider than he played for Leeds, and then anything I've seen of him.
Did you see the weekend that he went so far over the touchline onto the bench?
No, I didn't.
At the weekend, yeah.
But when I've seen him at Barcelona so far in pre-season, right out on the chalk, and that's just not what Jesse wants from a player, from an attacking player. He wants them inside, which is why he ended up at wing back, because that's where the width is from. It's like, well, if he suits playing wide, so that's how weird it was getting last season. And there's not really any way. You'd have to be old Mother Shipton to have been watching, Rafinha taking long throws from right wing back and Calvin Phillips toiling around midfield as we lost to Arsenal because we were down to 10 men in yet another game where we had a player sent off, and think, this is all going great, can't wait for next season. We just needed to get through it, and got through it, and now here we are.
Yes, and back to the tapes then that have been sent in. Nathan has been on.
Well, that was fucking brilliant. Biggest win, biggest performance in front of fans at home we've had since beating Huddersfield back in the Championship. For the benefit of our recently converted American fans, the Championship is a shithole division below the Premier League that we dossed around in for far too many years, always finishing 15th. And Huddersfield are a bunch of bastards down the road who have far too close relationships with dogs. Brilliant performance, thought it was superb, thoroughly deserved. Everyone played well. And yeah, Thomas Tuchel complaining that they were the better side and all the rest of it. I think he just needs to go home and sit in his cupboard with his collection of children's shoes, have a good long hard think about himself and his life choices.
His own children's shoes.
Yeah, alleged shoes.
And let's not get
unproven.
Let's not even get into the dog stuff. You can, if you are new and American and you're joining us, you're a new Leeds fan. Ask someone else to explain it to you.
Just start by looking at Huddersfield Town's mascot and club badge, and then it's
join the dots.
Work on from there. But yeah, I mean, it needs saying, doesn't it? Fuck the coronavirus. Fuck's sake.
It did deny us. It did deny us so much, and I didn't realise it at the time because we kind of, I think, we talked ourselves into believing, well, this is a unique experience. We'll remember forever. It's like bargaining with yourself, wasn't it?
Well, it was still the best thing at the time.
Yeah,
because there was fuck all else to do, and watching Leeds be brilliant on a Saturday was still really good fun, even if it was on telly.
But look at what that atmosphere was like.
But it doesn't stick with you.
Look at what that atmosphere was like on Sunday, and now imagine if we'd been there for the trophy lift. Fucking hell.
Yeah. And Man City away is the other big one as well. I think that was the one where pandemic patience snapped, because Stuart Dallas running over to a completely empty corner of the stadium is just
not fair, is it?
And if you'd pictured, like, in any of those games, like Bielsa pelvic thrusting with a completely empty stand behind him, it's just not the same. And who knows how he would have reacted if there'd been 10,000 fans on his shoulder. Maybe we would have seen a bit more animation from him.
Imagine Marcelo in tight jeans. He's a tracksuit man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's reached an age where he just wants the comfort.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with an elasticated waistband. Good jeans these days are built with elastic in them, as we well know, Michael.
Don't forget the quality of his calves, though.
That's true.
Like, remember, he was like the way he used to squat was very impressive for a man of his age.
Yes.
So he had his own style, but it is a shame that first season back in the Premier League wasn't like Saturday, because there were games during that season. Sunday. There were games during that season that might have felt like this if we'd been there, and it's nobody's fault apart from the fucking virus. So,
even when you can't be at the game, just seeing it on telly makes it so much better
having
as well.
A crowd there.
Yeah, it really does completely make it. If COVID taught us anything about football, it's that it's basically meaningless. I didn't struggle to watch Leeds games during it because I still cared. But any sort of neutral game put on, it was a bit like...
The crowd noise,
couldn't give a shit.
Putting the stupid crowd noise on in the background.
Then it was better than having no crowd noise, because having it completely silent and being able to play players just, Tuchel just going, ref, 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 all day. Pathetic.
It kind of helps explain Elland Road and the away fans as well for a lot of last season as well, of how supportive that was all the way to the end. Because I think just the will to have something like what we got against Chelsea, even though it just wasn't turning out that way once we were back in. Nobody wanted to be. It's funny, you see how quickly scum fans turned. Eric Ten Hag is the devil after... Oh no, they like devils, don't they? He's terrible after 2 matches because he can't get a tune out of fucking Cristiano Ronaldo. And they're going to go and burn Old Trafford down again. But then they beat Liverpool, and so everybody's happy again, and none of it matters.
Yeah.
And it's so fickle. Whereas I think the post-pandemic Elland Road seems to have had more of a sense of like appreciating what we've got and wanting to make the most of it. So even when we were losing game after game last season, it was still like just the fact that it was still this legendary manager and we wanted it to succeed. Whereas like how quickly it would have turned it at Old Trafford or somewhere.
I'm just casting my mind back to the Everton game, the first game back post-pandemic. It was the first chance we had to sing champions to the players, and a bunch of them had left and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, on the first year back, Zach?
That game against Chelsea really reminded me of some of our matches from the first season back in the Premier League against the big boys, the supposed top 6. Just the way we managed to control the match with front foot defence, really putting the opposition on the back foot while they had the ball. So much closing down up top. And then when we got the ball, we were so direct, so sharp, and really, really looked like a cohesive unit.
Nice to have another one from the Colonies there. The Colonies Postal Service is still working effectively, bringing the tapes in. Thank you, Zach.
I think the difference is from last year when it didn't feel like we could beat anyone besides fairly crap teams, did it? I mean, like looking at last season, actually. It took us until the 30th of November to get our second home win of the season, and they were against Watford, who were absolutely terrible, and Palace, who were all right, mid-table, very much mid-table, probably will be again. But this felt different, and even beating Wolves at home felt like a bigger result than either of those two.
Yeah, I think not to belabour comparisons, but when Bielsa's football was at its best was when we were in the Championship with better players than most of the other clubs, and that's when our defence. We used to measure how many touches the opposition had in our penalty area, and we would get through a game, and they might have two. Like, we were so much stronger. And we managed to keep that momentum into the first season of the Premier League. What Jesse Marsh's, what we look like now, is much more effective underdog football. Like, this makes better use of players not being as good as Chelsea's players and not being as good as Liverpool's players in the cold kind of light of day. And it's a bit of, in the nicest possible sense, it's got some of that Wimbledon 1980s attitude about it of giving bloody noses, and it's good for where we are.
And that's what the crowd feeds off that as well.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the comparison with the O'Leary era as well, because the O'Leary era kind of snuck up on us. I don't think we signed Darren Huckabee and Danny Mills and Eric Bakker expecting to qualify for the Champions League. It all just kind of started clicking.
It just happened, didn't it?
Yeah, and we started just beating Liverpool and beating Scum was difficult, but taking Arsenal on and really giving people bloody noses. And even the Champions League run, lost to Barcelona 4-0 in the first game, and you're thinking, oh well, this is where we are. But we started sort of proving ourselves and proving that, Olivier Dacour, 7 million, I can't remember like how much Patrick Vieira would have cost to buy at the time, but we could outplay them with Dacour and Batty against Vieira and
Petit,
Ray Parlour. But yeah, Petit. So we're taking on all these incredibly strong teams, and it's got the same feeling of underdog football is a good, and it's weird because
it's crystallised Moscow in the 40 to 60% possession percentage on Sunday. Like, we only had 40%, but it felt like we dominated the whole thing.
Yeah, and so it fast forward 15 years when we are winning the Champions League, you can sort of see why this style didn't work at Old Trafford last season, because if you're trying to convince dickheads like Cristiano Ronaldo, no, you are not going to be in possession, stroking the ball around, expressing yourself and showing the world that you're a Ballon d'Or winner. You're going to be tackling the goalkeeper and putting the ball in from an inch. Like, players at that level, unless they've got a really probably odd mentality for that level, aren't going to be interested in doing that.
You saw it to a certain extent in Chelsea on Sunday. They didn't really know how to deal with it, did they?
And they also didn't look arsed.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't look like they wanted to try and compete with us at that. So it's a weird thing about football, is kind of the better players you get, the less they'll be interested in playing like this. So how can we, if we want to have a decade with Jesse Marsh, how do we maintain this kind of perfect business of really good players, improving the players, but keeping them with this intensity and commitment? And there's probably only in this country Jurgen Klopp who's managed it at Liverpool, to manage to move from just gegenpressing to then actually we have players who are really, really good at building in possession as well.
It'd be interesting to see how it pans out, but let's enjoy the journey, shall we?
If it's all the way to the Champions League, then we can salute David Hockaday for the part he played in it at last.
Well, we can march into the San Siro, win there again, which we did before, I seem to recall.
Something like that, yeah.
Very close to a win. Felt like a win. And leave Charles de Ketelaere crying on his mummy's shoulder. We have a midfield now, which is good, and Miggy Pablo wants to celebrate it.
What I think the real kind of big takeaway from the game is we've now got a midfield, which I feel like we haven't had in a long time. We have, bringing on Forshaw, bringing on Click. We just absolutely control the game, and I just thought it was brilliant.
It was good fun.
Having options on the bench is quite nice.
Yeah,
rather than looking at it and going, hopefully none of them have to come on.
You still see,
they're all kids.
You do still see a bit of this kind of the angst that surrounds like the idea of having a small squad when people are talking about transfers. Like, so if we buy so-and-so, well, where's so-and-so going to play? And what about so-and-so's development? And it's kind of all just compete for a place in the squad. It's fine to have a squad. Lots of clubs do it.
The midfield is infinitely better than it was last season. It was a constant worry. And Tyler Adams is obviously never going to get injured either.
No. Absolutely.
It will be interesting to see what happens, because he will inevitably have a bit of time out with a suspension or an injury or whatever. both him and Aronson. It's interesting to see how we plug their gaps at the moment, because they seem to have been so vital to the system and our performances so far. I'm already a bit worried about them.
Well, it kind of leads us into
fit.
the next question that we've got that's been sent in by Bacon. So let's play this, because I guess it kind of feeds into the transfer talk as well, doesn't it?
Quick question around Rodrigo. We clearly are searching for a new striker, but we've got Rodrigo scoring for fun. He was signed as a 9, we believe. He clearly doesn't like playing as a 10. He's played there for the last 2 years for us, and he's been terrible. He obviously prefers playing as a 9. He's scoring lots of goals. So I'm just wondering whether we do need to go and buy a new striker, or whether Rodrigo could do a job in that role. What are your thoughts?
Another one from afar. These tapes are getting in quick, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't
South
know.
Africa. Sounds like South Africa, yeah.
I can never tell South Africa and New Zealand. I'd have said South Africa, but New Zealand's got a weird sort of
Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, apologies to the Southern Hemisphere. You're from somewhere down there.
I mean, I struggle to differentiate like Barnsley to Rotherham accents and stuff as well. So, yeah, he seems to be a striker now, doesn't he? And quite good at it.
It might be.
Should we buy another anyway?
Might be New Zealand.
It's strange. Marsh's concentration seems to be another striker to balance the squad, but then you talk to him about a left back in his press conferences. He's just like, nah.
Yeah,
I like Helder, Strike. I'm like, none of those are left backs, mate. But then striker. Oh, I really want a striker. He's like, you've got loads of strikers, because we don't have loads of strikers. But we have. I worry more about left back than I do in attack, and I know maybe it's a game about scoring goals, so I'm wrong. I've got everything the wrong way around. But Bamford and then Rodrigo. I know everybody hates Dan James there, but whatever, get over it. Joffrey Gelhardt, and then you're dipping into the Greenwood. I know he's a midfielder now, but can play as a striker. Matteo Joseph, Sonny Perkins. You know,
we need to sell some, if anything.
Well, kinda, because it is that question of like, how do you funnel all these players into what is essentially one spot? And that's always the difficulty, and we've talked about it. Like, how do you find this mythical player who's going to be happy to sign but never get in ahead of Bamford or
why don't we just sign someone better than all of them?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the Ketelaere thing as well, with him being able to play lots of different positions as well. But then I guess that's where the earlier thing about how we cope with Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams, for the performances they're putting in, look vital, but Adam Forshaw, I think, will work well in what we're doing, just from the little bits I saw in pre-season, and then against Chelsea he looked fine. And Sinisterra, Dan James, Harrison, Rodrigo can drop back. Who am I forgetting? We've got players in the mix of that 3 who can do it with a different style. Aronson obviously looks like the best at it, but that's it. If you lose your best player, then you have problems anyway. That's just
I believe it was our American friend JFK who said the time to mend the roof is when the sun is shining, and I just hope that's the approach that they take in this kind of closing week of the transfer market, because I realise that there is an issue of you don't want to have people knocking around your training ground and in your squad who are not getting games, but it is a long season. And I do hope that they can find that forward who does fit the bill, who can play maybe across the front line. So I do get, to a certain extent, the caution around just going in there and buying somebody for the sake of it. And they're looking for somebody who kind of fits that bill, like the Ketelaere, who could play anywhere across, like the centre forward or in behind or whatever, or wide. But surely you look at that on Sunday and think, well, if we can find that player, surely the right thing to do here is to bring them in and give ourselves the best chance, because it's just a chance just to kick on that little bit further up the Premier League. Then maybe you start to get ideas of Europe or whatever it might be. I said before, like, I think was it the Phil Hay show I said last week, goals basically elevate you up the table in this division. The goals to points ratio is it's about 1.1.
Your new favourite thing is this.
It's wild though, because it does track. It does track. So if you score 10 more goals, if you put 10 more goals into that squad, 7 more goals or whatever, it's huge returns.
George Graham disagrees from the past.
George Graham is wrong.
It's just a bit of a unicorn, isn't it? Trying to find that perfect player, and then you've got to factor in as well. Scouting takes time. Like you can have all the data analysts you want to sign a player. You want to see them play a certain number of times, and if it's down to trying to find a new player from this point, you want to see them play 3 games? Have they got the fixtures? Are they going to be in the team? Can you get more than video? Can you fly out to see them? There's a lot, we kind of there are probably hundreds of players who could fit the bill, but how do you actually physically go and watch them all and get the right one? This
is true, but then again,
question.
That you back that question, not at us though, because it's just an open question, isn't it? But you say to Victor Ross or any scouting department, have you been proactive enough? And hopefully they have, and we'll see over the next week. It's no point getting caught up on it again.
Well, that's probably it's the fact that the player then doesn't turn up, because they talk about having what the plan is after. They have 3 for every position, and if none of those 3 are available, what's their next move is kind of the thing that's a question. It's funny, I was reading about Brighton in preparation for playing them, and I don't know I can't remember who it was, but they signed a striker for I think they signed him for $6 million a couple of seasons ago, and they were willing to pay 3 times as much, but they got him at the end of his contract. And the first and basically the only thing he did at Brighton was one of the other players kind of accidentally kicked him as they were going out the tunnel for a warm-up, one of his teammates, and he turned around and had a massive go at him and started scrapping with him when it was like before his debut, and then he played the match and he was rubbish, and then they just loaned him straight out. I think he went to I can't remember where he went, but then he had 2 knee injuries and he's just been an absolute fiasco. So it's kind of like I was reading that and thinking like, that's how badly it can go wrong. And Brighton, it was interesting because Brighton have that reputation for being very, very good at finding players.
That's true.
And they actually are, their summer's work at the moment is moving on massive amounts of deadwood. Is it Matt Clark as well, the defender that they paid £5 million for, and they've just loaned him to the Championship every single time? And the reason given, again, in this roundup of players they're trying to get rid of was he's never been good enough in possession to play Graham Potter's football. So why did you pay $5 million for him? Perfect professional, brilliant. I think he was at Derby for one of their seasons, but so they've just loaned him to the Championship every year they've owned him. And I guess that's one way of doing it, is you sign a player and just loan them out, but they're yours and you can have them back at some point. But also, Brighton, the whole Dan Ashworth, director of football thing, superb at identifying players, spend money on a defender who can't play.
Idiots.
You never know though, do you? That's the thing. You do never know until you get a player in. Like Rodrigo, I know he's talking about now him coming good. But for the last 2 seasons, if anyone was trying to convince you he was a success, you would have said they were lying, essentially. You'd have been like, well, what do you expect for signing Spain's number 9 for 30 million quid? You expect 15 to 20 goals probably, don't you? Or if you accept he's playing a more withdrawn position, 15 to 20 assists or something. At least a lot of goal contributions, and we haven't really had it. But maybe if he is a 9 now. I mean, it depends as well how good the club actually think Joseph and Perkins are. If they think that in a pinch they can come in and do an all right job, I mean, then we might see them against Barnsley, in which case it'll give us us some way to judge them, I suppose. But it still feels to me like if we're now saying Rodrigo's a striker, and you've got Rodrigo, Bamford, and Joffe as established first team strikers, buy someone else.
Let's hear this then from Daniel.
So happy to see Rodrigo actually earn his price tag. Top goal scorer in the league as well. And Michael thought he was stealing and living. Well, to be fair, he has been up till now, but I mean, it's been great to watch him. Also, Brendan Aronson, I mean, he's way better than I thought he'd be. I think everyone is. And Jackie just every season getting better and better. Rasmus looked a lot better today, so that's good. Other than that, I think the team played very well, and also Chelsea were just muck. I'm delighted to see Thomas Tuchel's miserable face at the end of it all. I can't wait to hear all the excuses he bangs out. Good enough for them. Feck the Chelsea scum.
I enjoyed that. Thank you, Daniel.
There's plenty of Tuchel hate to come.
Should we pile into a little bit more from James then? James wants to have a go at Chelsea.
We're all over him the whole game. I mean, Chelsea had a couple of little good pieces of play, but they were fucking pathetic. I mean, for a team as expensive as they are, if I was their fans, I'd be shitting my pants for this season. Not us, though. Marching up the table. I mean, what a game. Tyler Adams was fantastic. Brendan Aronson was fantastic. The whole team was just on fire. You can see what the tactics are now, and they are working like a bloody charm.
That's definitely South Africa.
Yes, is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It was good, wasn't it? Yeah. That's all we can say about Sunday. It was dead good.
I mean, he does drop in the one element of risk is like, are other teams going to be as bad as them?
No, that's true.
So
can't all be as pathetic as Chelsea.
I would have been very optimistic about us beating scum playing like that until somehow they beat Liverpool last night, which I didn't see. But now I'm very optimistic about us beating Liverpool.
It was quite funny, weirdly. Yeah.
But we need to. I think there's an element it's not to diminish anything that we did in the game, but catching teams in the mood that Chelsea were in will definitely help. So close down Leeds Bradford Airport the day before every Premier League fixture so that nobody can fly.
And what it ultimately boils down to is, does it work often enough? That's the question. And when you see it work against someone like Chelsea, it gives you confidence in the system to think, yeah, actually, this can give us a good opportunity to do this more often across the course of the season, because we will lose games. There'll be games where it won't work. There'll be games where it looked like Palace away last year, which was just dreadful, and it'll be completely ineffectual. It'll happen. But
the plan for this season, though, truthfully, is probably if it works 10 times.
Exactly. Exactly that.
Everyone's happy enough with that.
Yeah, it's all it needs to be.
Which does mean losing 28 games or not winning 28 games, which is the downside of it. But it looks so far like it's going to be better than that.
And what we've said before, like, football is about moments, about days, isn't it? And I know that no matter which way this season goes now, I'm going to remember that Sunday game against Chelsea for a long time, because it was a brilliant day out.
If we end up relegated, you won't feel like that.
No, we're not going down though now in Moscow.
No.
Do you think Luke remembers it from the first clip?
Probably not.
He remembers how he felt. He might not remember the details, but he'll remember it was a fucking great day.
That is true. Somebody once said that to me. It's not what you say to people, it's how you make them feel.
And Leeds United made us all feel.
It made us feel special.
Very good.
Yes. Let's close out the show on this clip. Can we say this name?
Levi's solicitors advised not.
Thomas Tuchel, redacted.
That's
the beauty of today's win is that sometimes you win a football match because the other team's shit and you're just a bit less shit. And we've certainly had our share of those kind of wins towards the end of last season. But today was a whole new level. Chelsea came out with intensity and purpose and speed. And we said, yeah, great. We love to play with intensity and purpose and speed. And we took a team that were at the top of their game and turned them into a walking pile of shit.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Thomas Tuchel, redacted. That was, we can't say that, but...
No, but you get the idea.
Yeah, it's an allegation we're not prepared to stand by. That's it then for the clips. It was a great weekend, a great day out, and there's more fun to come.
Plenty of Chelsea. This has gone for about an hour now, this show.
Yeah, so this is basically, you've gone to the restaurant, you've sat down, you've had a lovely, delicious starter.
It's been a very big starter, though.
Yeah, it has.
I'm worried I'm going to be too full.
Well, let's give it a little bit of time to go down then. Mm-hmm. You can digest it, maybe have a chat to your friends, glass of wine. Maybe not in the case of Jack. Was it Jack who opened the show? Just get on the water, rehydrate.
He's 18. His hangovers will be all right.
He'll be absolutely fine. And then we'll come back with the main course, the Chelsea half of propaganda, in the next 24 hours or so. So enjoy listening to this again. Go back again. Jack, have another pint maybe. And we'll speak to you on that show. We'll see you in a bit.
The Square Ball Podcast.